Assalamu alaikum. Sulaiman Rahim here, Messenger of the Covenant, breaker of the 7 seals. War Talk. This is part 2 of the plan. What's the plan? What we talk about here is Gog and Magog's plan to try to take control of everything. They have control, general control. That's Adam and Eve of the Quran, the rules in the earth. But they plan to eradicate all opposition, to take eternal control of the planet. And this is their plan. We talk about plan 1, the eradication of the true seed of Abraham, true Israel. That's one of their plans. Now we're going to talk about their plan to eradicate so-called Orthodox Islam, which includes the Sunnis and the Shia, so-called Orthodox Islam. The eradication of the original nation is eradication of true Islam, mathematical Islam, the gods. See, they're not playing. They're serious. See, they're planning to eradicate us. That's their main plan. That's the root of Islam. We're the root of Islam. True seed of Abraham, according to Abrahamic covenant. But Orthodox Islam is a secondary. But they plan to eradicate that. They want to eradicate all opposition, all aspects of Islam. They want to keep the mathematics, but they want under their control. Because they know mathematics is a true religion. But they want to control it. They want to become the gods. So we're going to talk about that. War talk. Because Gog and Magog has been at war with the entire world for the last 500 years since they came out of Europe. Basically. Even though Britain is not a European country, it's out off the coast of Europe, but the inhabitants came out of Europe. And as it says in chapter 20 of the Injil, called Revelations, after they were thrown into the pit for 1,000 years, they would come out and cover the whole world and deceive the whole world. Read chapter 20. If you have any knowledge of history, read chapter 20. Forget all your bias, all your opinions, right? All that stuff. Just read it from an objective point of view, from a historical point of view. Did anything like that happen in the past? Right? Was there a period of 1,000 years that was dark? And who was that 1,000 years applied to? Wasn't there a dark ages that affected only European countries and didn't affect the rest of the world? And wasn't there a resurrection that took place at the same time, which they referred to as the Islamic resurrection? Because Islam wasn't established then, it was resurrected. At least this Islam of Prophet Muhammad, it was resurrected. See, and they said a resurrection would take place simultaneously with the dragon, the devil, and all thrown into the abyss for 1,000 years. So anything that happened, it said it will last for 1,000 years. At the end of 1,000 years, Gog and Magog will be let loose, and they will go cover the whole world. Be two world powers that will cover the entire globe. There's only been 2 world powers in the last 5 years that's covered the entire globe. That's Britain and America. Gog and Magog. Just read it objectively. Said they would deceive the whole world. Deceive about what? About chapter 20. Because they're telling chapter 20 is in the future. But if you understand history, you know it's in the past. And the Islamic empire that was resurrected would only last 1,000 years. and then it would be defeated by Gog and Magog. So those Sunnis over there that think they can revive the Prophet Muhammad's empire, read chapter 20. It's not going to happen. It was already been defeated 500 years ago by Gog and Magog. You held them under control. It said Islamic power would hold them under control for 1,000 years. Read it. It said it was a chain. There was the great chain that kept the devil, Satan, and the dragon, right, locked up for 1,000 years. That's what the Islamic empire under Prophet Muhammad kept them locked down in Europe for 1,000 years. But they broke loose after 1,000 years, and they defeated the Islamic empire, which they did 500 years ago, and they took it without and control the whole world. We see that. And said at the end, they would return, right? They would return and go, and they would turn on, right, on the people that enslaved them for 1,000 years to begin with. That means the remnants of the empire, of Prophet Muhammad's empire. That means, it said, they called the holy city. They would surround the holy city. They would surround the remnants of the people that was Prophet Muhammad's empire. They would surround them, right? And they would bring fire out of the sky, right? Out of heaven in the sight of men on the people's head. That's these drones that's darken the sky of the Middle East. These drones are darkening the sky of the Middle East, and they bring down hellfire missiles daily on the people, blowing them up. Exactly what it said would happen. That's exactly what's happening. It said at that point they will come to the end. Read chapter 20. Forget about all of, remember it's sealed. So, he says it's going to be the Christ. Well, actually, translation, Christ means the Messiah. So they would live with their Christ. But you think, it's about Jesus. Better read it. And they're telling you that's in the future. No, that's already taking place. Because if you knew that had already taken place, if you knew that it had already taken place, then you would not be deceived. Because that's the deception. You would know, right, that Gog and Magog, right, they represent the devil, Satan, right? And you know who the dragon is? That represents House of Saud. They're false. They're not even Muslim, Orthodox Muslim. They're Hindus that was put on the throne by the British. See? And they're fueling Gog and Magog. They're the power behind. They fuel God, because if House of Saud was not fueling Gog and Magog with this cheap oil, then they wouldn't have gotten the power as they became. That's why I call them the dragon, because they're fueling Gog and Magog. See, in what was that date? It was 1945. I believe it was 1945. Let me double check this. How it just happened. There you go. In 1945, see, the president at that time, Roosevelt, he met with the king of Saudi. That's the dragon, House of Saud. See, they came out of India. See, made a deal with them to fuel, because they had been put on the throne by the British to maintain the oil. And so Roosevelt went over there and met with them to guarantee the flow of oil. Because see, at that time the British had set them on the throne, but now the British Empire was declining, and the British Empire was on the decline, and there was in dissension, and the American Empire was in ascension. One was rising while the other was declining. See, so as the British had set them on the throne, but now American power was inclining, ascending. So they wanted to make an agreement that that the House of Saud would fuel them with cheap flow of guaranteed, steady, cheap flow of oil, because that would make them even more powerful. Because who has the most energy has the most power. He's that sort of energy, right? And in this vision world of Yaqub, right? And in return, they would guarantee their seat on that throne. So they would maintain. They would say the House of Saud would maintain the control over Sunni Islam and Mecca, right? And America would guarantee that. They would support them, make sure that they would never be overthrown. They would maintain it, right? As long as they kept a steady flow of cheap oil to America. That agreement was made in 1945. So the British saw us in action because the British is the one that started the so-called Balfour Agreement, right? That the agreement was to eventually have false Israel, right, established back in the Middle East when they was up in Russia and so forth and where on. And then the thing is that a lot of people understand this about what happened with Nazi Germany. I'm not going into much detail with this because I want to focus on Orthodox Islam. But see, in World War I, when the British was making these commitments, right, they made that commitment based on, you understand why this commitment was made, the so-called Balfour Agreement. They was at war with Germany. Germany was winning. They needed help. The Jews were very prominent and very powerful in Germany. They were like the richest group in Germany. It was right, richest demographic, the most powerful demographic in Germany at the time. Right? This is where Einstein and all those people came out of. You know, they was intellectuals, the scientists, politicians, everything. So they had a strong grip on Germany. Right? So, but the British was at war with, and they needed help. So they promised the Jews, right, so-called Jews, that if they assisted them, essentially betray Germany, right, that they would support them returning, because it was never theirs to begin, returning, like I said, because it was never theirs to begin with, to Palestine, take over. That's, you know. So that's what they did. They betrayed Germany. Germany lost the war. See, they was put all kinds of reparations on them, everything. I mean, they crippled Germany, and Germany was like one of the most sophisticated, educated, everything countries over in Europe at the time, and now they was down on their knees because they lost the war, and all these countries gathered around them, put reparations, all kinds of things on them, you know, crippling up sanctions and carrying on. And Germans was mad about that. See, they ain't telling the whole truth. That's how Hitler rose to power, because he promised to take revenge on them, because they betrayed their country. The German Jews betrayed their country. That's where all that came out of. That's why they wanted to get rid of them, because they saw them as traitors. They'll never tell you that part. You don't take my word for it. Go and study, Google it, go and look. I mean, you might be up front and Google it, but if you look in there, right, search it, you'll find I'm telling you absolutely the truth. They betrayed their country, and so that's why Hitler, he made everybody aware of that. Most people was aware of it, but when he made everybody aware of it, nobody had any pity for them, because they was on their knees. Germany was, that's why World War II started, because Germany was on their knees. They was bankrupt, right? The inflation that went through the roof, right? It cost you like a mark is basically a quarter, right? At least it was when I was over there in the 60s. Mark is equivalent. That's their money is based on the mark. So it got so bad that took like 1 million marks just to buy a loaf of bread. See, 1 million marks to buy a loaf of bread. So what they would do is they would take wheelbarrows of marks, right? And they had to pay them 2 or 3 times a day, because the inflation was going so bad. Like if you work, they pay you 3 times a day, because they pay in the morning. Right, by afternoon, right? A mark might take $1 million, $1 million marks to buy a loaf of bread. By afternoon, it might take $2 million. So they pay, and by eating, it might take $3 million. So they pay 3 times this. You can go and buy stuff before it went up again. If they were so bad, Germany was crippled. It was on their knees. People were starving over there. And like I said, they blamed it all on the Jews, because they said we would never have lost that war if y'all hadn't betrayed us. That's what the real story is. So you want to study that, look into it. So they give you all this sympathy. Well, if that happened here in America, they would do the same damn thing. If America lose a war, and because their citizens have betrayed them, what do you think would happen once they recover? You think they would say, okay, well, we're gonna forgive you, didn't know any better? They would do the same damn thing. Every country would. Every country has. They tried to make it think they was innocent. They was bystanders. They was just killed. No. Not that they cared for them anyway, but that was the reason why they went after him. They wanted to get rid of him, because they had crippled Germany. Germany was a basket case. And Hitler had to lifted back up off his knees. I'm not for him or any of them. I'm just telling you the facts what happened. See? So he put the blame on them, and people turned against him. They started rejuvenating Germany, and that's how the war started. Because Germany, with the war, to recover. In fact, partly revenge for World War II, World War I, and for other reasons, right? Because they was trying to recover. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that. Anyway, I just want you to understand that. But back to this. Now, in 1990, when the Soviet Union collapsed, they had this thing called the Malakan Group. And if you heard about Bat Buchanan, I tried to find that. They have it in Livingston, New Jersey. They have all the archives. But if you try to get it, they ask you, why do you want that? Why do you want that? So if you live in New Jersey, you go to Livingston. To Google, it's up there in Livingston. You go there, and maybe you can go personally as archives and ask you to see that the transcripts of the videos of the Malakan Group, right? Where Pat Buchanan was, they had this group called the Malakan Group. He died since then, right? But they keep his all archives there, and he was on there, and he was saying right after the Soviet Union fell, he says what's going on in America today with the politicians is they're thinking, it's called, he said, the wise heads, I'm almost quoting them exactly, he said, the wise heads now saying, now that we destroyed, broken Soviet Union, essentially communism, they kind of like had a block about China, but see, they wasn't afraid of China at that time. See? Now we're going to go after Islam. That's what he said. Now it's hard to find that, but I said, if you're up there, maybe you can find it, share it with the world. Right? Up in Livingston, New Jersey, they keep it up there, archives. They make a Larkin group. Okay, so that's exactly what happened. All of a sudden, right, it's 1990, then what happened? All of a sudden, Saddam Hussein. Now see, the whole idea about that, now, I don't want to take and spend a long time with this, and I guess I'm going much longer than I expected, right, already. What's going on with that is that Iraq was just coming off his war with Iran that they put him up to it. False Israel, America, Britain, they put up a war against Iran, which came to a stalemate. But it pretty much crippled his economy. And so all the Sunnis was helping them. They was giving them money and everything, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and everything else, right? So when the war came to a stalemate, right, they was kind of pissed off. And Saddam Hussein said, well, you know, they want him to pay back the money that they gave him to support the war. He said, I didn't give you anything, man. We lost soldiers. We shipped blood and everything. This was like an 8-year war. You know, we lost soldiers, we lost equipment, we lost all kinds of, we suffered a lot of stuff. So he was saying, he won't give anything. Said he was supposedly the most powerful Arab nation, right, in Europe and Asia and the Middle East at that time. So what happened was, as Kuwait started slant drilling. Now Kuwait, there's a whole story about Kuwait. Kuwait is an artificial country. I'm really getting a lot of stuff here, right? Anyway, I'm gonna go to some of the stuff here, right? But Kuwait is an artificial country. So in other words, Iraq was part of the so-called caliphate. That was like the most powerful. It included Iraq. I think it might include Syria, but it was a caliphate. That's where all the educated everything, the scholars, everything, also Islam were, right? Before the British came in there. So the British knew that that's where all the intellectual everything was coming out of there. So they said this thing called, what they call tripwires. They set one up in South Africa. That's what South Africa was. It was tripwire for all of Africa, right? So a tripwire is like, if you trip over this, that's a sign, right? So they said, Kuwait is a tripwire. So, because Iraq, that was his port to the sea. And they knew if Islam rose again, it would rise from the so-called caliphate. Not from Arabia, but from, because that's part of Arabia also, but from Iraq, because that was the intellectual part. So they said, well, but before they could become a world power, or any kind of power, they'd have to have access to the ocean, to the sea. And their access because that was part of Iraq, Kuwait. So they made Kuwait a separate country. So now Iraq was what was land bound. In other words, right? It had no access to the sea. And you know, before they become a power, they have to have access to the sea to get out. You know, to go out and spread their, extend their power, right? To project their power. So they set up this little thing called Kuwait. And so they knew the only way, if Iraq came powerful enough to knock out Kuwait, that means it was powerful enough to start promoting this power, right, and project this power over the world, and it's on the way to become a world power. So that way they know that's the time to take them out. That's how tripwires work. Same thing in South Africa. If the Africans was able to take out South Africa, that means it was powerful. There's power enough to take out South Africa. That means it was powerful enough to become a world power now. So when you see them take out South Africa, that means you better take them out. False Israel is the same reason. That's a tripwire. Because if the Arabs are strong enough to take it, knocked out, it means now they're powerful enough to start projecting their power to become a world power. That's what tripwire is for. The British set these up all over the world. Okay? That's what Kuwait was. So that means Iraq was landlocked. See? So understand that. So the thing is that they started slant drilling because it's just a little piece of land. It's all, look at the map, it's a little small piece, but it's a land that's blocking Iraq from the sea. See? So they started slant drilling. That means slant. If you drill straight down, you drill on your land. But if you slant drill, it's like you have a neighbor, right? And neighbor got gold in his yard, so you drill it and slant, so you get down to his gold. But you drill in his land, but you slant drill because you're going see, but you're not seeing it because it's under the ground. And when Saddam Hussein found out about it, he said, "Hey, y'all better stop it. If you don't stop it, I'm gonna kick your ass." They wouldn't stop it. So he talked to Papa Bush. He sent April Gillespie. Check her out. She was the ambassador over to Iraq at the time, right? And asked her, what would America's reaction be if he went to Kuwait and knocked out Kuwait, right? Because they were slant drilling. April, May, Gillespie's response was, "Hey, that's not our concern. That's an Arab concern. That's Middle East concern." She told him, right? Then go ahead. So then he went in, but it was all BS because they wanted members of tripwire. So once he went in, they closed the door on him. Say, "Oh, you invaded Kuwait and everything else." The British papers, everybody published all over the world that that's what happened. Saddam Hussein was holding up the agreement. I remember he was holding the agreement. Man, they agreed. I talked to them. America agreed, and they said, "Oh man, look, he's just a liar. He just hold up anything." That's what the press was saying in America. They knew he was lying because they told him to go ahead. And then they went in there. They set him up. See, and so. You know what happened after that? All this is a plan. This is all a plan and make, right, to get rid of Orthodox Islam. See? So it's been going on for quite some time. It was going on in Iraq, in Iran, right, Sunni, because they put the Shah on the throne because they had an oil there, and they was called democracy. And the president was something Muhammad something, and they took. And so in America, decided got rid of him, right? They had cut a coup, got rid of him. It was democracy. They say they love democracy, right? And they put the Shah on the throne, and he was guaranteed oil to the rest of the world. And he oppressed the people. He was worse than Saddam Hussein ever was, until they got rid of him in 1979. But the whole idea about that is that he was selling all this oil to America, but he was investing the money back in American banks. So you can say it's over $1 trillion worth of oil over those years he was in power, maybe $1 trillion or more dollars. But the money was over in American banks. So now America had oil and the money. So when he got overthrown, they would not let him in the country to come and get that. And they told Iran, you cannot have that money because you a terrorist nation, whatever. So essentially they have trillions of dollars of Iran's money over here, and they never paid for the oil for all the years they was taking, never paid a dime for it. Think about that. That's why Iran is angry. Well, no, angry. They hate because of democracy. That's bullshit. Just Google it. That's exactly what happened. Hate because you hate somebody stole your money too. You've been working hard and selling all this stuff, and then they take your money and your wealth too. That's the real story there. All that stuff is just bullshit. See. Therefore they ripped them off for trillions of dollars. They're doing the same thing right now in Arabia. because all that money that they're getting, because that was part of that agreement that Roosevelt made. Because they're going to sell it, they have to use the only way they can do transactions has to be with U.S. dollars. That means America has control of that money. Has to use you can't buy any oil, anything, do any kind of commerce, any transaction with Arabia unless you use dollars. They're the same. There was all enforcing that on Iraq. They also enforcing that on Libya until Saddam Hussein says that's another thing. He says, see, that's one of the reasons why they went after him, because he says, that was the second Gulf War. Because he said after they deceived him the first time, he said we're not going to use the dollar anymore. That's why he had to go in the second time, because that means they can't play their game. Because if he put the dollar someplace else, that means they actually really got to pay for that oil. And Gaddafi did the same thing. Said I wanted to go, so they had to get rid of both of them because their plan is to take all that oil and put it on paper. They was going to pay for it, but after oil runs out, they weren't going to give them nothing back. So that means they got oil for free. And they know the oil in Arabia. They said 20 or 30 years it's all gone. I mean, the oil it's not like plant just grows. No, it's a certain amount there. And they figure about 30 years. They look about 30 years, it'll be all gone. And you understand, in the Middle East, that's their currency. Without oil, they are nothing. That's what gives them their power. It ain't Islam or nothing. That's what gives them their power, that oil. That's what's giving their power. Understand? That's what you have to understand. That's what's giving their power. And they know that. So, and they plan on taking oil and never giving anything back. Because once the oil runs out, they say, "Oh, well, you was oppressing women, you was whatever, you're a terrorist." And so now they got all the oil for free. So that's why America doesn't consider itself in debt. On debt, on paper they're on debt, but they know they ain't really on debt because they never gonna pay their money back, and ain't nobody gonna be able to do anything about it. That's part of the plan. That's just part of the plan. See? So when the Shah was overthrown in 1979, it said he came over to get it. They wouldn't even let him in the country. They would not even let him in the country. But he had been an ally for years. He was everything America was, but then they wouldn't even let him in the country. So he had to run to Egypt. Remember, he's a Sunni. He's a Shia now, and he runs to Egypt, which is Sunni. And Egypt took care of him, and he ended up burying him and everything because he had cancer. And they buried him over. But remember, they both be at war with each other, right? Shia and Sunni. Well, how come they came to his rescue? And the money's still over here. So they're not giving Iran anything. All that money's still over here in America. And the oil that they gave them. They ripped them off for trillions of dollars. They plan to do the same thing with Saudi Arabia, so-called Saudi Arabia, and Iraq, and all of them. That's why you say all these so-called terrorists like Bin Laden, all those guys. How come all these guys are educated, super educated, and rich? Why are they the terrorists? Because they know the game, and they're trying to stop it. That's the real reason. Ain't because they hate America, hate democracy, all that kind of stuff. They might not like it. That's not the reason. They know when that oil runs out, they're not going to have a damn thing. Nobody's buying sand. And any country over there that tries to industrialize, have any kind of diversified in any kind of way, they stop it. That's what Iraq was doing it. They stopped it because Saddam Hussein was trying to industrialize, right? He was trying to have diversify. Now, boom, it's an oil economy again. That's why they're trying to stop Iran. Iran is diversifying, industrializing. They want to stop them because they don't want to have no other source of income, just that oil. And when the oil is gone, they be gone. And that's the destruction of Orthodox Islam because their power be broken. That's the game. See, but look all the tactics. Why they don't want Russia? Because Europe is getting all the oil from the Middle East. They want them to suck up that oil fast as possible. In other words, the more more of it you take, the faster it goes. They want it to go as fast, but like it be going yesterday if they can. So Europe is one of the primary users, primary customers, right, of that oil. They use a lot of it. See? But then when Europe said we want to start using from Russia, America wants to stop that. Why? You can't use Russia. Why? Because Russia's okay in some cases, but we don't want Russia. That's not the reason. They tell you that's the reason. Because why you buying? You should be buying oil from Russia. They want to start that pipeline and everything. No, because they give Russia. That means they're taking from the Middle East. That means it's going to take longer for the oil to be used up. Same thing in Venezuela. You think they in Venezuela? Why in Venezuela? Venezuela's got a huge oil supply. So they cripple that economy because they don't want anybody using oil. They want to use Middle East oil only. They want to use up fast because once they do that, that cripples all this. That's the end of it. America has huge supplies of oil, natural gas. They don't use it. Why don't use it? Because they want to use all theirs up over there. That's what's going on. They will use all of theirs up as fast as possible. That's why they got pissed off with Trump, because he didn't get the memo. He said, no, we're going to be energy independent. They don't want to be energy independent. They want to use all up over there. Because now, right now, they're in trouble. They tell us, would you pump more oil? We pump more oil? Why is Biden asking to pump more oil when they got all here? Pump more oil. Just give us more. Ship more oil. They want me to use it up. Because once it's used up, and they have no other form of commerce or anything else, Orthodox Islam is finished. All the guys saying that people are impoverished. They be begging for people to come over here and divest with everything they willing to do. That means false Israel already now they have all the land. Nothing's going to stop them. They're not manufacturing guns over there. Nobody's going to give them any guns. They ain't got the money to buy them. So what are they going to fight back with? Quran and beads and flying carpets? Because they're not producing stuff themselves, and no European country is going to sell it to them. Not sell plane parts, anything. So they won't be able to do anything. And so what's going to stop false Israel? Just roll them up, and now they get what they was trying to get all the time, that all that land was said belongs to them to begin with. They claim the Abraham seed, all that land belongs to them. Now there's nothing to stop them. In fact, they probably begged them to come in there and take it because they're poor, they're starving. Oh, they got sand. Nobody's buying sand. Do you understand the plan? That's why stuff is going on. Don't sell oil to anybody. Only one oil from the Middle East, and it has to be used US dollars so America can control the whole affair. That's US dollars. So how long they got? 10, 20 years? When oil runs out, what do you think will happen? What will you think about it? If the oil runs out in the Middle East, what will happen over there? They'll be starving. They have no power. They have no industry, anything. Nothing. All they have is that oil. The oil runs out, and then they won't have access to money because the money's over here in American banks and everything. So they don't give them anything. So they got all that oil for free. Oil for free. And now they got Orthodox Islam on his knees, Shia and Sunni. That's the game plan. And the educated ones over there, they understand this. That's why they're so-called terrorists. They're trying to stop it. Because they know what the future brings. They know they're going to be on their knees kissing Master's ass in a few days, begging them to come over here. And that means they're going to end. That's the end of all Islam, and that's not just the end of it. That's the end of the belief. Because if they starve them, they're going to give up Islam. They're going to do whatever they do to eat. So that's the end of all this. It's destroyed. So now you got the true seed of Abraham over here, eradicated in prisons, back in slavery. And you got Islam on his knees, dead. Religion is dead. See, so in other words, the true seed of Abraham, they're locked up, they're back on plantation, and that was the ones that was the one that was they was on contesting false Israel's claim. See, because they the true, right? So now they got them locked out the way, and the only thing stopping them taking them. See, nobody stole that identity. Now they want to take all the land. So now they got there's nobody contesting the identity anymore because we all criminals. We all back on the plantation. That's in our claim, and in the Sunni claim or the Islam claim, right, to the land, they don't have it anymore. They can't have control of it. So now, right, it all belongs to false Israel. Nothing can stop them. They got armies, they got everything. They got money. They got American, America backing them, and the Arabs and and she and everything. As soon as they have nothing over there, they have nothing but sand. What's going to stop them? You understand the plan? You see it happen right in front of you, but you don't recognize it. That's why they don't want anybody to use any oil but oil from the Middle East. Don't use Russian oil. Don't use American oil. Don't use Venezuela oil. Nobody's oil. Just use that oil. Use it up. Oh, they big, they rich. Yeah, they rich. But where's the money going? The money's over here. They ain't gonna have nothing. They think they got something. Once it runs out, right? They were abusing women. There was this. There was that. So now they got rich off it all. And they even richer now because now America's not in debt anymore because they can take that money. So it's in the red right now because they owe it. But they don't owe anything. So the money goes into the black right now because they keep it. It's their money. So they didn't pay anything for the oil. Because the primary reason America's in so-called debt now is because their use of energy. They're paying for all the energy they get from the Middle East. So if they don't have to get the money back, now their books are straight. They're in the black again. And their two major enemies are gone. The true seed of Abraham is gone. They locked up. They've been down at the point of eradication. Like I said, if they're in prisons and they can't work anything else, right? And abortion between the two, that's the end of it. It's just a matter of time and there's nothing left. See? You're in prison for life. Millions in prison for life, they ain't producing their babies. And abortion, there's not going to be anything left of it. And same thing over there, right? So they're going to be pushed, they put out land, and they'll be eradicated because they ain't got anything. They'll do the same thing to them. Not just take their land, but where they going to go? As far as Israel have the whole land, where they going to go? Where they going to go? So they eradicate them. That's the plan. That's the plan. That's plan part 2. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. You better wake up. These people not playing. They're serious. I try to explain to you. If you look around, you see it makes sense. Because before it wasn't making any sense. Why I was doing this stuff didn't make any sense. Why they got a problem with Venezuela? Why got all out there? How come America got all this oil? Why they depend on the Middle East? How come they trying to stop Russia from selling oil to Europe? Why? Because they try to use all the Middle East as fast as possible to break Orthodox Islam, to break it. They already broke true Islam over here by incarcerating us, make it turn us into criminals, criminalize our whole nation. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. I'm going to leave it there. The plan part 2. See? I have plan part 3 coming up pretty soon. Hope you understand, brothers and sisters. These people are not playing. Assalamu alaikum.